Now is the time to dive into the world of the Now. It's time for a review of album number 6 by Gorillaz, an alternative band, and I suppose that alternative doesn't necessarily always apply. There's lots of different genres. In fact, Gorillaz have always changed it up over the years. You're never gonna get the same Gorillaz with each studio album. And last year saw the release of album number 5, that was Humans, and it was a record that was kind of divisive, but still, I found it to be a very solid album. In fact, it had some of my favorite Gorillaz songs on it, like She's My Caller, the Kali Uchis feature was great there, and you also had some other great features in the form of Pusha T, Noel Gallagher, many others. Now, Humans was a great record, but it did divide fans, but so quickly we already have the new album, the Now. And this is something that is a drastic turn, but it reminds me of what they did with The Fall coming shortly after the release of Plastic Beach in 2010. I had a roommate at the time that was extremely obsessed with Gorillaz, and he always had me kind of trying to listen to them, get into them, and I think that for the longest time I maybe just kind of put up a barrier between myself and Gorillaz, and I even did a video about bands that I couldn't get into, and they were on that list. Now that came out in early 2017, obviously Humans opened my eyes a little bit more, and I did a top 10 on Gorillaz, and I think that I have come around on them a bit. I started to understand them more. And over time, I've really come to respect the relationship the cartoonist Jamie Hewlett and the lead singer, the creator, doing everything else, Damon Albarn, have together. They're able to bring this magic that was so forward-thinking when it started at the beginning of the century, and now here we are with Gorillaz in 2018, and it's a vastly different entity than what it was originally, but still something very cool. Now, this new record, the Now, is much different than Humans because it's not as collaborative heavy, and you're only going to see a few featured guests. Once again, we get to see Jamie Principle. You might remember him from being featured on Sex Murder Party, and we also have yet another Snoop Dogg collaboration. This time, that is both of those guests actually come on Hollywood. As far as what you're going to get in terms of the sonic exploration on this record, it is different in the sense that this is much more vibey and synthesizer heavy. It's something that sees the perspective of 2D, the lead singer of the fictional animated side of the band. And we obviously get 2D, but we're down a member because Murdoch, the bassist, is actually locked up in that universe. And who else to replace him other than the Gangrene member from the Powerpuff Girls, Ace? I mean, naturally, right? I'm sure Murdoch will get his shit sorted out soon enough. He'll get out of jail, but in the meantime, Ace is a worthy replacement. Now, on this record, it is very Albarn-centered in terms of the vocal performances, and it is a little bit lighter and easier listen, I suppose, in some ways because there's not as much going on, but also, I found this to be a record where you can have a hard time paying attention to it because it can sound like background music. It's very chill, very summery, and very vibey. It's synth-heavy, and it has kind of a synthwave aura to it. Maybe a little bit of synth pop in places, but still, I think that synthwave is more of a fitting term. It reminds me of the 80s, but also something a little bit modern, and we got our first taste of that on the lead single Humility featuring George Benson. Now that's a great track that is very sticky in my mind. I keep coming back to it, and also Lake Zurich, because I love those pounding drum rhythms on that one, and just the way that it has these quirky synths that really raise up. They're very danceable, but it's also kind of down to earth. It's a very summery song, and I can easily get lost inside of that or Humility. So after hearing both of those tracks, naturally I was excited to hear more from the Now. Even though there were several other singles released after Humility and Lake Zurich, I didn't personally listen to them because I don't like to hear more than 2 songs before an album drops so as not to spoil it for myself, but I think the real question here is, did it live up to the hype that those first 2 songs created? And honestly, I feel like no, in a way. I mean, there are great songs here, don't get me wrong. There's ones that I will definitely be coming back to, but overall, it just felt like I got a piece of meat and a lot of it had already been bitten off, and what we were left with were some of the remnants, and some of those still taste really good, and they're great, and you just are left wanting a little bit more. It's not to say that there's no meat on the bones whatsoever, because there are some delectable treats and some delights on the album, and that came quickly. I mean, I heard a few that I really liked right off the bat, but even after repeating this album over and over again, I found myself struggling to really name specific moments on songs. I could probably guess what each song would be if you started to play a sample from it, but overall, are they totally ingrained in my memory? Not really, and I do think that that's a bit of a problem that the Now Now has. I really found myself indulging in some of the cuts such as Kansas. That one does have a really driving hook to it, even though it is pretty light and airy in its instrumental and the accompaniments that go along with it. Overall though, the song is somehow very hooky to me, and I could say similar things about the danceable tune Trans. Now, I've heard some fans talking online already and saying that they were let down by the track and had high expectations, but honestly, I do think this one delivers the goods. It's a little bit more on the electronic side, but that's not really a problem for me personally. I do think that you can still hear the other instruments in the mix quite heavily on this album, the Now Now in general, but this track in particular was kind of a nice blend of the synthetic, but also the real. I can't help but mention once again the two lead singles from this project, Humility and Lake Zurich, as being among the best songs because, let's be honest with ourselves, they are. Humility is a jam and a half, and also Lake Zurich really has a great dominance to it with its musicality. Now, I also found myself drawn to the closing track, Souk, and after googling the term souk because I truly didn't know what it was, apparently it is an Arab marketplace or a bazaar, somewhere that you shop, and it seems like this track in particular is a great close to the album because it's summing up all of the travels that have been going on, and it seems like we've been on this journey with 2D. And this one honestly is very gripping from a music standpoint and point of view. This one, as the song goes on, you can totally see the progression in the music, and it's really something that puts a smile on my face because it just feels like a warm embrace, especially once it kicks it up a notch in its last act. Hollywood offers some interesting commentary talking about a city that can kind of suck the life out of someone, and it really writes from the perspective like Hollywood is this female that's drawing you in, basically maybe showing you a certain side that you want to see, and you get sucked into the routines, you get sucked into the lifestyle, and then finally you start to realize that you need a wake-up call because you're lost out there somewhere. And I thought that the Snoop Dogg feature was fantastic. He is easily the best part about this song. Also, the hook is pretty good. I do think that it's kind of a balancing act because it takes some getting used to. The first part with Jamie Principle, it's okay. I find myself just kind of shrugging my shoulders a little bit, not caring all that much, but I do feel like I'm a bit more entertained as the song goes on. And especially the instrumental on this track, total banger, especially as it keeps going on. It's like somebody lit a fuse that finally goes off, and I can't help but move and groove to it. I don't care for the vocal approach on Sorcererz. It feels like it's strained a little bit and is trying to force across a certain kind of idea. And right after that, even though I do like the hook on the song, and it's kind of innocent enough, I do like it for what it is, I suppose, but I don't know how much I would replay it. Idaho feels a little bit safe in some ways. Even on this album, an album full of kind of synthy, vibey songs, I do feel like Idaho is lacking something, and I just can't quite put a finger on it. You'll definitely want to tune in for a pair of songs that come in a back-to-back combo towards the end of the Now Now. Those would be, of course, Magic City and then Fireflies. Magic City definitely has kind of an alluring vibe to it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I almost get like a vision of something like The Wizard of Oz, like we're going to a magical place, obviously, as the title would imply, but I don't know why I just see a yellow brick road. Maybe Gorillaz will do an animated video along those lines. James Ford worked extensively alongside Albarn on this record, as did Remy Kabaka, and I think that Ford's presence is really felt on a track like Magic City. As you can hear, like maybe the most recent Arctic Monkeys album, Ford has worked with them pretty much their entire career, and here I kind of get this really spirited vibe, especially as the drums and the keys kick in. It's something where I do enjoy the fact that the drums feel very rhythmic and a little bit more lively and down to earth, and not that there's anything wrong with the programmed drums, that's nothing new to Gorillaz at all, but here, especially as they kick in and some of the fills, it's nice on the ears. It's a change of pace. And then right after that, we do get another solid song in the form of Fireflies. I don't think that maybe it's going to turn heads necessarily, but still, it has a nice vibe to it, and it reminds me of being kind of like the Busted in Blue of this record. If you remember on Humans, that was kind of a down-to-earth moment for 2D where we just focused on him, and here, it feels like he's questioning some things, and there's kind of like this deep, murky bass and also kind of a washed out synth, and I like that slow progression to the song. The Now definitely leaves me lingering a little bit. It leaves me wanting a little bit more because there's tracks that just don't fulfill like others do. 1%, and even something like Sorcererz that's not necessarily forgettable, but it does kind of get stuck in my head for the wrong reasons, I think. It's just because I'm thinking the vocals feel a little bit off there. There's some issues even on the tracks that I do like, but there's also really good songs here that I think that I will come back to, although I'm not sure how often, maybe just in like the summertime, Humility, and then Kansas. I also really like Magic City and even the instrumental track Lake Zurich, which is a total banger if you ask me. But overall, I do think that this is a pretty tame project that doesn't push too many barriers, not that it's trying to, but it just feels like another release from Gorillaz. There's good songs, and I do think that you guys will enjoy a good majority of it, if not all of it, and maybe you won't come back to it forever, but still, a nice summer album. For me personally, this is a strong 3, maybe a light 3.5 over time, although we'll have to see on that. Let me know your thoughts on the Now in the comments section down below. While you're here, don't forget to drop a like on the video, and of course check out our sponsor, the Amino for Gorillaz fans. It is linked down below or else in the pinned comment. It does help support the channel when you check it out and download. I hope you enjoyed the review. Keep in mind this was all just my opinion, so let me know about yours in the comments section. Other than that, you can check out another Gorillaz review right over here, or check out another recent video I did on the channel right over here. All of my social media accounts, including my Patreon, are linked down below.